Welcome back to Mornings with Jaresha. It is another great day. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I really feel like it should be Friday already. It's just Wednesday, and we're going to have an amazing day, amazing Wednesday. But if we can be honest, it feels like this week has just been it literally feels like it should be Friday already. And I don't know if that's just me or what, but the last couple of days have been just so jam packed with meetings and projects and our to do list and everything else. And so I know that it's been busy for me, and I'm quite sure it has been busy for you as well. Because if you are committed to working on your purpose, your goals, and your dreams, then we don't have time to just sit around twiddling our thumbs. If you have children, you don't have time to sit around twiddling your thumbs because you have things to do. You have things to do. So for today, it got me to thinking about how we just have busyness happening. We have our growing to do list, right? Our growing to do list. We have work. We have everything else that goes along with our life, kids, families, church, you name it, we have it, right? And so the question that I really want to pose today is, what does your work life balance look like? Now, I'll tell you that this is one of probably the top questions that I get asked all the time is how do you balance it all? How do you balance being an entrepreneur, being a mom, being a wife? How do you balance everything? And here's what I'm going to tell you. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. To me, it's really all about prioritizing. It's about prioritizing and how you're managing your time. So that is, I know that's really not probably the ideal response that most are looking for. I think they're looking for some kind of, what is your secret, and to me, I don't really feel like there is a secret to really balance because your life looks different from mine. It's not a one size fits all. But ultimately, I think there are always habits that we can introduce into our lives and really implement that is going to help us with this whole how do we really balance our life. And I think there's really some steps that we can take so that we can begin to prioritize things, the things that matter to us most. And that's going to make us feel more fulfilling. And for most of us, that is having that time with our family, having that time with our children, and being able to fit all of that in. How do you fit that in? Now, I'm going to share with you today some things that I have implemented into, the family dynamic with my life. But again, it's not a one size fits all for any of us. You have to really do what's going to work best for you, what's going to work best for your family, with the ultimate goal of how can I position or put myself in a place where I'm going to have time and I'm going to be able to prioritize. And in order for us to do that, we have to look at some of the things that pulls us away from being able to have that work life balance, which, as I've said on this show before, it is, like technology is great, it is amazing. However, when it comes down to our smartphones and us being glued to our phones and being pulled away from being present and in the moment and having those times that we should be spending with our families and we're on our phones and all of that. So I think we really, in order for you to say, how can I begin to balance my life? How can I really develop or establish that work life balance? You have to look at what you're doing already. So, your current state, like what is working for you, what is not working for you. And often when it comes down to our devices, that is hurting. It's hurting us. It's hurting us because we have a hard time pulling away from it. And I'm really going to speak to all of the entrepreneurs out there because I get it. I understand that you don't have a set schedule as far as, working hours, and most of us should have that. But there is that tendency to check emails, to be on your phone all hours of the day. You have to be disciplined. You have to set some kind of schedule for yourself and for your business so that you have those working hours that you're going to be focused on, you know, your task and the projects and everything that you need to complete. And then after that time, you're going to devote that for family, for, spending time, quality time with your family, or, church activities, whatever it is that you may have on your plate. You have to really be disciplined about prioritizing and sticking to what you put in place. So technology is not always, it's our friend, but at the same time, it's not always our friend when it comes down to things. And so one of the other things that, I think is really important when we think about that life work life imbalance, it's to me, it's all about that idea that everything has to be perfect. So that's where I say the whole idea of, thinking that one size is a one size fits all, and you can have this just super perfect balanced life. That idea needs to be thrown out the window because there's no such thing, if you ask me. There's always going to be something that, you have to do, especially, and I'm speaking to some of the single moms and the moms out there, especially as a mother. So if you're a mother, you're always going to be pulled from different things, or there's always going to be something that's pertaining to your kids and maybe sports or whatever it may be, but there's always going to be something. And so that's why I think it's very important to be able to manage your time wisely, manage it effectively, and really stick to a schedule, some kind of structure for yourself, for your family, and stop striving for perfection. We need to strive for excellence, right? Stop striving for perfection. I cannot stress this enough, because what may work for me may not work for you and your family. But ultimately, we all can be putting steps and processes in place so that we can begin to develop a more balanced life with, our work and then our life as well. And so you have to look at, when it comes down to that excellence that you're striving for, like what does that look like for you? So what is your goal? What is your end goal when it comes down to, work life balance? Are you looking to be able to, add an extra 4 hours a week to focus on family? What really, you have to be clear about what that ultimately would look like for you. And so I think that as we begin to just ask ourselves questions and, getting rid of some of that technology and being present and unplugging from technology as often as we can, as often as we can, which is very, very important. And then really being able to sit down and just look at the items that you need to be making time for. So, family, of course, would be, one, family, God, and then, exercising and then work and what that looks like. And so I really believe that if you can sit down and write down what is the most important things to you, and what you're striving for. So what would that work life balance look like for you? Ideal, and I hate to say this because I said we shouldn't be striving for perfectionism, but we should be striving for excellence. But what would that excellence look like for you? So what does that work life balance really look like for you? And how can you begin to work on your schedule throughout the week and planning to ensure that you're going to have time and be able to prioritize, because we're all busy. We're all busy. I feel like, we're all stressed to a certain degree, with the different things being pulled away in so many, being pulled in really in so many different directions. But you can control that. You can control some of those stressors that you have in your life. And so that brings me to another point, is really looking at those items that are really stressful to you and how you can begin to reduce that stress. And often, we feel very overwhelmed with a lot of the different tasks that we're doing, be it from if you have a 9 to 5, if you're an entrepreneur and just wearing every hat of your business, but you really feel overwhelmed. And so again, to get rid of that overwhelming feeling, it's called prioritizing. It's called attaching deadlines to the tasks that you have. It's called delegating tasks if you can. If you can. Now, and I say that, and I don't want to get too far off subject, but I say that because when I first started this whole entrepreneur journey, I did not have a team to delegate to. I did not have an assistant. I did not have that. And so I understand, with wearing many, many hats. And then I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission as the CEO and owner of the company. I gave myself permission to get some help. Okay, get some help. Get some help, and actually hire someone to help you within your business. Start with an assistant. Start with an assistant. I think we really get so caught up in thinking, oh, well, what task am I going to delegate to an assistant? And that's where I go back to writing things down. It's so important for you to know and have a system in your business. Know what that system looks like, have a process, and actually have it written down. So when it comes down to being able to delegate tasks, you know what task you need to be sending, what task you can be sending to an assistant. And start small. You don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars on an assistant. Start with maybe 10 tasks a month or 5 tasks just to get your feet wet, to see that it will take a load off of you. It will help reduce the stress in your life. So I didn't want to get too far off subject with that, but I felt like it was very important because as we are looking for that work life balance, stress is one of the things that we're all experiencing. And so in order to reduce that stress, especially as an entrepreneur, even if you're not an entrepreneur and you just have a lot of things on your plate, it's okay to have an assistant to help you, to help take the load off. Get you an assistant, get someone, a support system that's really going to help you so that you can begin to prioritize and really focus on the things that are very important, those really, really important tasks of your business, of your life every single day. And we need to be getting rid of those time wasters. So when I say the things that are pulling you, that are distracting you, get rid of the things that's going to waste your time, because you want to be able to implement and add those things that is going to create value, that's going to create the quality time with your family. And perhaps that may be introducing a family game night on certain evenings where you and your children or your family can sit down and play a game. And it's things like that. I think we have to be really creative when it comes down to really trying to have that work life balance. And one of the things that I definitely want to mention as well is I think that when we're striving for work life balance or whatever that may look like in our life, we have a hard time with telling people no. And so that creates just a plate that other people continue to add to it. And we're handing them that plate saying, please, yes, it's okay. Add more stuff to my plate. And meanwhile, the plate is getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and we're complaining about how heavy the plate is. We're ready to drop the whole entire plate. And so we have to be willing to say no. Learn how to say no, because you can't pour from an empty cup, okay? Learn how to say no. Say no. Saying no is really the key to a lot of our stress that we're going through. Say no. Saying no can really cut back on wasted time, and it's going to make the most of the time that you have. So it's okay to say no. We have to be willing to sit down and set our expectations as well. Set your expectations for what you feel like your work life balance should look like. What would that look like? And be willing to say no. Not everything that everyone brings you is something that you need to be saying yes to. So we have to really make sure we're aligning ourselves with those tasks, those activities that is really going to be conducive to our goals, our dreams, and our purpose. And if it's not, then say no. I know that saying no can be difficult. I get it, I understand. However, you need to practice saying no. Practice saying no. If you have to write it down, practice makes progress. So you have to practice saying no and be okay with it, because no is no needs to be utilized a lot more so than what it is, especially when you're trying to achieve work life balance in your life. So we have to be willing to say no. And then one of the other things that I definitely think that has been important and really instrumental in me just having to be able to prioritize and trying to achieve some sort of balance in my own life is going back to what is your normal workday look like. So I think that if you are really getting clear and sitting down and saying, let me jot down what my normal work day looks like and what I would love for it to look like, and begin to see if there's gaps. So certainly as entrepreneurs, I think that this workday idea, writing down your ideal workday, is it can vary because of the many different tasks and all of that goes along with the entrepreneur hat and world. However, if you're on the flip side of that, so if you are still, if you're trying to jump or you have a side business, you're still in the 9 to 5 world, sit down and look at what does your ideal day look like? Not just a work day, but what does your ideal day look like? And then begin to implement things in your life that you could see yourself moving and help push yourself to that ideal day, to be able to incorporate that ideal day, if you will, into your actual life. Because ultimately, you want to make sure it's going to work for you. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to prioritize those things, and we can really have that increased productivity, because that's what we want to do. We want to make sure we're not being overworked. We don't want to be burnt out. We want to make sure that we're not going to be stressed. We're not going to be fatigued. We want to make sure that we are going to be positioning ourselves to where we can be productive every day. We can get the things done that we need to be getting done. And so I think that that is really the key. And, that is really what has helped me over the years is having a schedule. So I'll tell you that my whole entire household runs off of a calendar, runs off of a schedule, to where it's structure. It's very, and it's one of those things that some people either love the whole structure and having a schedule, and then you have those that don't particularly care for the structure, the schedule. I think it's really important, especially when you have children, to have some kind of structure in place. And so everything goes on our calendar. We have a huge whiteboard calendar that things, like events, any kind of activities that's related to the children, they are all being added to that calendar. So we are all on the same page. We also utilize a calendar, like a Outlook calendar as well, or a Gmail calendar, a Google calendar. We also utilize that as well, because there are things that are added as far as that come through emails and all of that. So it's taking those same activities, those events, and making sure they're on all of our calendars, as well as the whiteboard calendar And then we also have a weekly family meeting. And so every Sunday evening, we are sitting down as a family to talk about the upcoming week activities, and we go around, so it's like a round table type meeting where we're talking about any kind of concerns, anything that, any questions, any activities, anything anyone wants to share about anything, whether it's related to that week or wins. And I try to really encourage my children to share their wins, to share different things, to be able to celebrate not just their self, but celebrate each other as well. And it's a good opportunity for us just to sit down and catch up with one another, because throughout the week we are all pulled in so many different directions. I have teenagers and I have a college student as well. And so we're pulled in so many different directions. And just to make sure we're all on the same page and we know, who's doing what, what's going on, it's very nice. I'm telling you that if you implement something like that in your household, you'll absolutely love it. It has been amazing, and we've been doing it for several years now. It literally just works. But again, when we think about that whole work life balance, it's all about planning, 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 prioritizing, and then being willing to change and alter things as you need to. So if you begin to look at what that could potentially look like for your life, for your work, for your business, then you can begin to implement those things and really prioritizing, and start small and build. Start small, start small, start small. I cannot stress that enough. Start with something small, even if it's adding 30 minutes, an hour, based off of you sitting down and really getting clear on what your ideal day, ideal week will look like, some things that you really feel like you're struggling and you're wanting to improve as far as your work life balance. It's really sitting down and doing that first, and then starting to formulate some kind of plan so that you can start implementing those things into your life, so that ultimately you can feel like you're prioritizing and you're creating that balance that you need. And make sure you don't forget to add your self-care in there, because self-care is so very, very important as well. And as you're making time for everything else, we need to make sure we're going to make time for our mental, for our physical health. And because ultimately we want to make sure that we're always striving to be the highest version of ourselves. And so before you can do that, you have to make sure you're going to put you on your to-do list. Make sure you're going to add yourself to your to-do list. So this has really been an eye-opener, topic for me over the years, because I think we always strive to have more balance in our life. And it's not something that it goes away. It's something that you're always going to be striving, always revamping, always evaluating to see how you can add more balance. And it's always, it's based off of whatever you have going on in your life. So, like, as I mentioned, if you are an entrepreneur and step into the entrepreneur life, things change within our lives. And I think every time those things change, we have to be willing to look at the process, look at the balance that we're really striving for, and how we can improve it. So I hope you're ready to execute, because it's time. It is time. It is time. It is time. It's time to execute on your goals. It's time to execute on your dreams. It's time to execute on your purpose. And ultimately, if you're looking for work life balance, it's time for you to begin to execute, to make a change, to make a shift, to transform your life so that you can create more balance for you, for your family. It's time. It's time to execute, y'all. Let's get it. Let's go.